Hello everyone and welcome to the Kappa Children's Foundation 2017 Early Learning and Childcare webinar series. This month's topic is using visual tools to support classroom procedures, rules, and routines. It is our privilege to have you join us today and to connect you with our subject matter experts who assist in providing tools needed to take on the day-to-day challenges of running a childcare business. This month's speaker is Brittany Walsh. Brittany holds an early childhood special education teaching credential and master's degree in child development from Mills College. She currently serves Fremont School District as a mild, moderate special needs preschool teacher. She also provides early childhood special education itinerant support to children with IEPs and their teachers in general education classrooms. Additionally, her itinerant scope of work includes serving medically fragile children with special needs and their parents. Her presentation today will center on supports for all children, as visual aids are useful for all children. She wants to emphasize that they are especially helpful for children with special needs and English language learners, but are an important resource for all children. And early education professionals do not need a background in special education to use visual aids. In fact, Brittany just returned from China where she introduced Chinese teachers to the use of visual aids in supporting English language learning in their classrooms. It is my pleasure to introduce to you our presenter, Brittany Walsh. Brittany?
Thank you. I am delighted to be with you today. Well, I think it's safe to assume that every teacher can remember a student that struggled with following directions in class. They repeatedly forgot the classroom rules and often required more than one or maybe two reminders to clean up and stand in line. The truth is, there's likely more than just one student that comes to mind, and if we're being honest, nearly every student at times benefits from extra support to remain focused and comply with directions. But what can we do to help our students who struggle with listening? Today, I would like to share with you some of my tools for creating and using visual tools to support classroom procedures, rules, and routines. Okay, class, take out a piece of paper. Take out a piece of paper, please. Have your piece of paper ready? Okay, write this down. Audio-visual aids reinforce spoken words with concrete images and thus provide rich perceptual information, which is the basis of learning. Got it? No? Okay, maybe this will help. The sentence in the previous slide was loaded with complex language and without additional information did not effectively convey the message that visual aids are simply pictures, which allow for seeing and understanding spoken language. These pictures allow time for the listener to process language and better understand what to do. Ideas that often seem quite simple to us may not be so simple and clear to a child. What if the child could see what we were talking about? It helps them to understand what our words mean. A picture or a chart or even a simple drawing can provide children with an entirely new experience in understanding an idea or concept than mere words. Visual aids do not disappear into thin air to be forgotten like spoken words or hand gestures do. Later, when you try and recall information from today's presentation, you will have a library of images in your mind that will help you remember key points. Similarly, for children learning to understand classroom rules, routines, and schedules, visuals remain the same and allow for identical rehearsal, and thus consistent memory pathways can be created. With this rehearsal and memory of sequenced activities comes learning and understanding, and ultimately leads to increased independence, confidence, and self-esteem. Who can benefit from visual aids? The truth is all children can benefit from visual aids, but especially those who fit into the following categories: language disorders and delays, autism spectrum disorder, English as a second language, hearing impairment, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, oppositional defiant disorder, and many other learning difficulties. So what are some of the difficulties that can be assisted by using visual aids? You might find that a student shows really good receptive listening skills in one part of the day, but may benefit from visual aids in one or more of the following areas. Visuals will help children who have difficulties with listening and attending to teacher-led activities, understanding and responding to directions in a one-on-one conversation with teachers and peers, processing sequenced information, such as in complex or multi-step activities, or lessons that span several days, or in a novel or challenging classroom routine like fire drills and assemblies. Also with motivation and play, by students who lack social skills or the desire to interact or cooperate. Visuals can help children follow instructions and routines, especially helpful for students that protest or challenge during non-preferred activities. Anxiety and resistance to change is very common with students on this autism spectrum disorder, as well as social isolation and shyness, and especially challenging behaviors. Now let's take a look at a few examples and uses of visual aids that you can make and use in your classroom. And I would like to say that at the end of this presentation and in the PowerPoint printout that you receive of this webinar, if you look to the last page, there will be some additional websites for you to utilize and make some of your own visuals. These are the basics. These are examples of visual aids that you are probably already using in the classroom. Photos and illustrations, video, flashcards, posters, maps, picture books, and hands-on manipulatives, those are all visual aids. These are the tools that we use daily to teach our students about new concepts and things that are happening outside of the classroom. Nothing helps a student conceptualize the fantastic spectacle of an erupting volcano like pictures and videos. Similarly, we can utilize pictures and other visuals to help students conceptualize classroom expectations. Classroom rules are a perfect place to introduce students to visual directives. Take pictures of your students engaged in desired behaviors. Display pictures of desired behavior in a prominent position for the whole class to see. These rules may be focused towards a particular student, but should be expected of all. You can refer to these visuals regularly to encourage the desired behavior. And make sure students have time to process what you are asking them. If you find a certain student is needing extra time to process rules, you might consider making them a personalized visual list of rules that hangs near their desk, in their cubby, or even a pocket size to carry around and reference throughout the day. Visual schedules are also an important tool to increasing students' understanding of classroom expectations. Students feel anxious if predictable routines are not in place. This is when we see disruptive behaviors or experience challenging transitions between activities. A visual schedule provides a clear external structure of the school day and may be physiologically calming for your students. Visual schedules also help students with learning disabilities become independent of teacher prompts and cues. Display these boards in a prominent place for all students to see. Go through the day's activities briefly with the whole class soon after the school day starts. Refer to the visual schedule regularly during the day to direct and focus students. Here are 5 tips for using visual daily schedules. 1. Use real pictures that clearly reflect the activity. Using pictures of real children without distracting props or backgrounds will help them understand what to do. Display pictures from top to bottom. Children naturally move from top to bottom and not left to right. 3. Show a clear beginning, middle, and end. Children are set up for success when they don't have to guess when the next break or recess is planned. 4. Use movable materials. Use Velcro or similar to allow for easy changes to your schedule. Be sure to point out to students any changes to their regular day. And 5. Include a done pocket for completed tasks. If you have students who need a very strong visual direction, take off activities once they've been completed and put them in an actual box so students can see and understand that the activity is completed, like out of sight, out of mind. Classroom procedures. Many of the daily classroom routines we perform are a lot more complicated than we realize. We do them without thinking. However, when the time is taken to really look at the routine, it usually has quite a number of complex, smaller steps. The general idea with sequenced pictures is very basic. To start with a few pictures of a particular routine and gradually build up the number of pictures and the sequence length as the child achieves each smaller step. The eventual aim is to have a standard sequence of pictures, usually around 6 at the most, depending on the child, for the child to refer to, which allows them to achieve a particular routine with as much independence as possible. Here you can see a simple example of washing hands, something that may seem very simple to us, but when we break it down, there's at least 5 steps involved. Visual procedures are important because some of our students struggle with processing verbal cues. Their ability to understand receptive language is still developing, and we cannot rely on our loud teacher voices to get our messages across. We also can't always rely on our students picking up on social cues and group behavior. While the rest of the class is sitting nicely on the carpet ready for story time, there's often one student still in the play area throwing books and having a grand old time and completely not realizing he is the only one that isn't where he's supposed to be. Sound familiar? We need visuals to teach routines, back up our verbal cues, and show our students what to do. Visuals help our students become independent because they can use these visuals without us. Here's a list of possible classroom procedures that might benefit from visual support: waiting in line, taking a test, sharpening a pencil, partner work, leaving school, fire drills, and assemblies. Each of these are made up of many smaller steps to ensure success. I love to laminate these pages, and I keep them all over my room. We use Velcro to keep them on the walls and have them in place for just when we need them. Turn taking. Using visual aids to support turn taking is a fun and effective way to practice. Children will enjoy using tools that prove themselves to be successful. These tools will help children wait for a turn by knowing that there's a system in place to ensure everyone gets their fair share. On the left, a 2-part visual cue allows students to regulate their own experience by exchanging cards. The student who is waiting for their turn holds the red card, which keeps their hands busy while also continually reminding them to wait for the green card to start their turn. This can all be done without an adult repeatedly reminding them to wait for their turn. In fact, a teacher may fade their verbal instructions by just tapping or pointing to the red card and praising the desired behavior of waiting patiently. Another visual tool can be made using a numbered piece of paper and pictures of students. As one child finishes their turn with a highly demanded item, say the classroom computer, the teacher can then move the student pictures to show whose turn it is and who's up next. Once students learn that this is a successful system, they will be more willing to wait for their turn the next time. Transitioning from a preferred classroom activity to an unpreferred one can be very challenging for some students. Visual timers are wonderful in assisting classes with transitioning between activities, staying on task, tolerating non-preferred activities, timeouts, and promoting independence. Here you can see a teacher has put a timer on for the whole class to see. As the time runs out, students all know what is expected of them. This will help them stay on their preferred task or their non-preferred task. Similarly with the picture above, as the red ring circles back to 0, the students know what to do next. This helps with timeouts and also setting parameters for time. Other examples of visual timers are the circle timers, numeral countdowns, hourglasses, and sand timers. Let's talk about additional supports for students with special needs. A first-then visual can show children that a desired activity will come after completing the task at hand. Using these one-on-one with challenging students, you may place it on an individual student's desk to help them understand the sequence of activities. You can take a particular activity off of the picture schedule, once the rest of the class understands, and place it on the individual's first-then schedule in front of them. This will help them stay on task and help them get to the activity that they want. Another idea is to place a positive reward in the then area. For example, it might read, first clean up, then free play. For this to work, the student will need to want what is in the then area. This is perfect to use throughout the day to help students understand sequencing. You might have first wash hands, then eat. Something very concrete with a large reinforcer at the end, like food or preferred task, that will help this strategy work. Another option is to actually include a physical reward in the then area, whether it's a cookie or stickers or stamps. So having it physically in front of them can be a really large motivator. Another strategy for our students with special needs are social stories. Social stories are wonderful visual tools to help children learn about social behaviors. In this example, you can see it says, Quiet Voices at School. Social stories are written in first person that help our students on the autism spectrum disorder articulate and understand classroom expectations. In a social story, we pair written word with pictures that help students understand what is expected of them. The great thing about social stories is that they're editable. You can change the wording to make it fit your students' needs. Social stories should be used before and during social activities. It's best to read them right before an expected challenge, but also during and after. These books are fun for children to read, and it allows them to have repeat exposure to what is expected of them. Behavior regulation. Students with special needs may have a difficult time regulating their emotions when faced with a challenge. These students benefit from direct instructions and modeling to identify their own feelings, use calm down strategies, and find a positive solution. Here, a teacher has created a calm down center, a soft place where a child can find sensory comfort and be alone for a few moments. In the center are pictures that outline specific strategies for problem solving. It is useful to read through the problem solving sequence with the students repeatedly, and not only when they are upset, to practice them. Another useful tool is to make visual behavior choices for difficult situations. When a student is frustrated, what can they do? Sit somewhere calming? Ask a teacher for help? Take deep breaths? Having a list to choose from gives positive guidelines. It is beneficial to tell a student what they can do rather than focusing on what they can't do. And below you can see a visual of taking 5 deep breaths. It's very helpful for a student to understand how to count to 5, take 5 slow breaths, and also have a good understanding of when their breathing is done. So they do 1 breath, 2 breath, 3, up to 5. And once they've reached 5, you can ask them and check in if they're ready to make another choice or if they would like to breathe again. These are really helpful strategies. In the same vein, students will benefit from visuals that help give guidance about what they are doing right. In positive behavior management, we guide students to change their actions within a specific context. Behavior management is usually used to change negative behaviors or habits. The process involves identifying the negative behavior, raising awareness about alternative behaviors, changing our environment to reduce the behavior, and offering positive reinforcement to encourage alternative behaviors. So, for example, if a child has a habit of screaming until it's his turn for the computer, he has learned that that behavior will sometimes get him what he wants. We need to show him an alternative way to get the same outcome. Perhaps by asking a teacher for help, adding his name to the wait list, or asking a peer for a turn. And we can reinforce these positive behaviors with rewards. Eventually, we are able to give small visual indicators that the child is doing the right behavior, which will delay the reward. When the child receives all the needed tokens, we must give him the reward. Again, the child must believe and trust in the system for it to work. A first-then system works in a similar way, but it does not require smaller tokens to delay the reinforcer. Supporting our English language learners. A picture is truly worth 1,000 words. Visual aids allow you to explain the meaning behind various vocabulary and structures without lengthy or confusing explanations. For English language learners, words are abstract and rather difficult for the brain to retain, whereas visuals are concrete and as such much easier remembered. Visual aids help students understand and remember concepts more easily. When you present a concept using a visual aid, you are giving your English language learner students something they can associate with the concept. Visual aids should be used in conjunction with other forms of communication, such as speech, signing, and tactile experiences. We always want to pair our visual cue with a language cue, especially for our English language learners. You can also give opportunities for nonverbal communication with picture boards. And those are great ways, picture boards are a great way to increase communication, but take away the stress of needing to use verbal language, especially for students who are still learning their vocabulary words and learning to be expressive. But if we give them a form, a way to communicate non-verbally, that will boost their self-esteem and their confidence and allow them to want to continue communicating. I bet you're wondering how you can make your own visuals. Well, they can be made in a number of ways. The method suggested here is one which, through trial and error, I have found is easy and creates long-lasting visuals ready for consistent use and handling. So number one, select the visuals, which are just pictures, that you want. Now these might be printed photos of your students. You can download them for free online. There is a plethora of websites out there where you can find exactly what you're looking for. Clip art cartoons are wonderful. Magazine cutouts are great. Hand-drawn sketches. Sometimes I will keep the wrappers from candy bars and laminate them. Truly anything that you think will help your student understand and make connections between what you are saying can be laminated and used as a visual. So number two, you're going to want to cut out your picture into individual pictures. 3, laminate each picture separately to make the pictures more durable because they get handled a lot. And number 4, I like to apply a piece of Velcro or something similar for convenient use and storage. You will thank yourself later if you put all of the scratchy Velcro on the back of the ones that you handle and all of the soft Velcro down on the tables or on the boards. So again, the hard surface goes to the hand, hard in the hand. So hard, scratchy surface goes on the piece that you are pulling off, and the soft piece will remain on the table or the wall. So suggestions for implementation. Keep it simple. Post visual aids in important places around your classroom to decrease the amount of confusion and chaos that students sometimes experience. While pictures and posters and visuals can sometimes be very, very helpful, you need to be careful to only use what is necessary to avoid overstimulation. Pay close attention to the areas in your classroom you think would benefit from a few visual aids and try using them. If they do help, keep them up. If they cause more confusion than necessary, you might consider removing them until the children are ready to use them. Also, consistency. Most students will not function well in an environment where there are lots of surprises. Keep this in mind when you plan your curriculum and daily schedule. Most kids will thrive on consistency, and therefore you should attempt to keep your daily visual schedule close to the same each day. Positive reinforcement. Depending on how familiar you are with using visuals, it may take a few attempts to find the way that best works for you in your class. But whatever you decide upon, use large amounts of praise for even the smallest achievement by your students, as it will give them a positive experience, raise their self-esteem, and place within them a desire to try and the opportunity to achieve. In summary, visual aids are pictures. They're a great tool for seeing and understanding verbal instructions. Visual aids give extra information and allow children the time they need to process what they are being told. Visuals do not disappear into thin air to be forgotten like spoken words and hand gestures do. Visuals can also be sequenced to break down and learn a skill bit by bit. Visuals remain the same and allow for identical rehearsal and consistent memory pathways to be created. With this rehearsal and memory of sequenced activities comes learning and understanding, and ultimately increased independence, confidence, and self-esteem. Visual aids should be in conjunction with other forms of communication, such as speech, signing, and tactile experiences. These are extremely helpful for our students who are learning English as a second language and our students with special needs, but truly for every student in our classroom. I thank you so much for spending the time to learn more about how visual tools can support you in your classroom procedures, rules, and routines. I hope what you've heard here today will be helpful in your classroom. And for more information, please consider looking at your PowerPoint printout and look to the last page for a few additional websites to check out for ideas and downloads. Thank you.
Brittany, thank you so much for being here with us today and for giving us such great information. If anyone listening has any questions, you can contact Brittany and you can find her email on the first slide of this presentation. Again, big thank you to you, Brittany. Finally, thank you all for your participation and for your support of the Kappa Children's Foundation. We hope you enjoyed today's webinar and hope you have a great day.